Ladies and gentlemen, this is TVP World. You're watching another edition of Break the Fake, where we debunk fake news and combat false narratives. I'm your host, Benjamin Lee, and let's get rolling. Now, over the last few days, talks of a mysterious US peace plan has spread across Western media like a leak with its own PR manager. No official text, no signatures, no press conference, just fragments. What we actually have so far is a set of unconfirmed leaks and not a finalized proposal, but that hasn't stopped anyone from treating it like the next Yalta. Even Putin rushed to comment, saying Russia is, quote, ready for peace, and that Trump's 28-point outline could be the basis for ending the war, which already tells you something. No serious peace plans start with the aggressor applauding the draft.
Если в Киеве не хотят обсуждать предложение президента Трампа и отказываются от этого, то и они, и европейские поджигатели войны должны понимать, что события, которые произошли в Купянске, будут неизбежно повторяться и на других ключевых участках фронта. Может быть, не так быстро, как нам бы того хотелось, но неизбежно это будет повторяться. И в целом нас это устраивает, поскольку ведет к достижению целей СВО вооруженным путем, в ходе вооруженной борьбы. Но мы, как я многократно уже говорил ранее, готовы и к мирным переговорам.
The situation became even more curious when US top diplomat Marco Rubio confirmed that a document from which the bullet points were extracted does originate from Washington, and that both Russia and Ukraine have been involved in discussions around the drafts. In other words, we probably saw the process but not finished plan. The leak points may represent someone's notes, someone's proposal, or someone's wish list, but they are not an official peace agreement. This is why we need caution. The leaks do look dramatically lopsided, but leaks often do. They rarely show the whole table, only the ugliest angle. And yet, the 28 points already circulating online reads like a fantasy drafted in the back room of the Kremlin. Ukraine should accept all occupied territory as lost, reduce its army, abandon long-range weapons, and rewrite cultural and constitutional identity to include official Russian language status and recognition of pro-Russian religious structures. Now, these are not demands, not compromises. It's a peace plan only in the same sense that a mugger telling you to hand over your wallet will also end the conflict. One of the most absurd lines is the Russia will pay Ukraine rent for Donbas clause, a proposal so surreal it feels imported from reality TV, not diplomacy. Add to that a rule stating that any alleged violation by Ukraine would nullify all guarantees, and the picture becomes clear. The leaked version is not a peace framework, but a trap with stationery. Ukraine's position remains unchanged. Any plan that includes territorial concessions or surrender is off the table. And officially, Kyiv has not recognized these leak points as authentic. Europe, meanwhile, is cautious. See, rejecting a US-linked proposal is delicate. Endorsing leaked pro-Russian terms is impossible. Currently, the real picture looks like this. Something is being drafted, something is being negotiated, but the version circulating online is not an official document, just leaked fragments that raises more questions than it answers. So until there is a confirmed text, reaction should stay measured. European leaders were right to respond firmly and immediately. The leaked terms, as presented, look lopsided and incompatible with any stable peace. The reaction was justified. But at the same time, it is important to keep a level head. Nothing is final, nothing is signed, and the real discussions are far more complex than a handful of bullet points circulating online. What comes next will depend on the actual terms, the real balance of interests, and what Ukraine and its partners considers acceptable for security and for peace. Until then, caution matters more than speculation, and patience matter more than panic, however hard it may be. While the world debates a so-called peace plan that looks more like the aggressor's wish list than any realistic route to justice, Russian propaganda keeps offering fresh reminders of why concessions to the Kremlin are not a path to peace, but an invitation for more terror. Just listen to Vladimir Sloyov, the regime's main TV enforcer. In his latest broadcast, he calls for breaking the psyche of Ukrainian children in occupied territories, re-educating them and turning them into proper Russians. Now, this isn't a slip of the tongue. It's a public face of an actual occupation policy.
Война закончится, а потом что будет? Вот у нас мы освобождаем территорию, а на этой территории люди. А на этой территории дети. А мы что, забыли, как было, когда Мариуполь взяли и когда освободили от нацистов? А детишек же, им же голову промывали давно. И, мы можем об этом громко не говорить. Но детишки-то вообще были настолько отравлены, а их же надо лечить. И это тяжелейшая задача, которая была на плечах руководства ДНР. И очень много этим занимался лично Денис Пушилин, за что ему честь и хвала. А у нас системно программа действует? А кто отвечает? Вообще, вы мне скажите, а какие хорошие, серьезные появились фильмы о войне? А появились? А сериалы?
And this here is what some politicians forget when they talk about Ukraine sacrificing territory for peace. People live there. Hundreds of thousands of Ukrainian children live there. And for the Kremlin, those children are not individuals. They are material. A workforce for failing Russian regions, a future mobilization reserve, a population to be reshaped, renamed, and absorbed. Russia has already deported at least 1.5 million Ukrainian children since 2014, a war crime by any definition. The real number is even higher, hidden behind bureaucracy and secrecy. In Russia, these children receive new names, new citizenship, and foster families instructed to raise them in the ideology of the Russian world. Their entire identity is overwritten on purpose. So when Solyov demands that Ukrainian children be re-educated, remade, and scrubbed of their Ukrainian identity, he isn't exaggerating. He's voicing a long-standing imperial tradition now performed live on federal television. And this is exactly why no peace plan, no compromise, no temporary concession can include leaving any Ukrainian territory under Russian control. Giving up territory means giving up Ukrainian children to deportation, identity erasure, and militarization. Russia isn't only occupying land, it is trying to occupy Ukraine's future. And that is something no negotiation can legitimize. Fresh sociological data has dropped in Russia, the kind that the Kremlin loves to parade as an objective snapshot of public sentiment. And as usual, propaganda immediately rushed to turn dry statistic into a bedtime story. A fairy tale, really. The kind where everything is fine, everyone is smiling, and nothing is on fire. So, what do numbers actually say? Well, only 8% of Russians report that their financial situation has improved. 23% openly admit that things have gotten worse. Nearly 1 in 4. And that's in Russia, where complaining might get you in trouble. Only 24% believe next year will be any better. The rest seem to understand that waiting for economic growth in Russia is like standing on a platform where the tracks were removed years ago. The train just ain't coming. But then comes a magic trick. Russian media proudly announces 57% say their standard of living is average. Average? Compared to what? A normal country or yesterday's propaganda broadcast? See, the war against Ukraine is a financial black hole that keeps swallowing everything. Budget reserves, economic stability, long-term planning, and the last bits of optimism. Trillions go into missiles, drones, tanks, and television studios because in today's Russia, war is the only industry that still receives full funding. Putin isn't planning to end the war, and the price for that is showing not just on the front line, but at the grocery store and in utility bills. For years, many Russians repeated the same phrase, "The war doesn't affect us." But it does though, just not through explosions, but through smaller portions, higher prices, and shrinking paychecks. The latest sociological data only confirms the obvious. The economy is eroding, people are getting poorer, and the Kremlin is spending their future on a war that they never asked for. The longer it lasts, the more every Russian household will feel it at the checkout counter. And with that, we conclude this edition of Break the Fake. But for more news, update, and commentary, please stay tuned to TVP World.